Hey everyone, Lewis aka Spider-Man 1991 here with another weekly comic book review. Today I'll be reviewing comics that were released on July 11, 2018. As usual, I will be ranking these comics from worst to best. So let's get started. Champions, number 22. Amadeus Cho and Riri Williams show their new looks to the champions while Sam Alexander is depressed because he lost his Nova helmet. Meanwhile, the champions take Snowguard on her first mission to Tanzania. Then Viv and Snowguard have an encounter with Man-Thing. Pretty much when you read this issue, you're going to be confused about certain things, such as why Amadeus Cho is now Brawn instead of the Hulk, what happened to Riri's armor, why she has a new one, also why did Sam lose his helmet, and where the heck is Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Well, apparently this issue lightly says that if you want the full story, you have to read Incredible Hulk for Amadeus, Champions Infinity War for what happened to Riri and Sam, and well, Miles, he is apparently the story takes place in the recovery period from the last Spider-Man arc by Brian Michael Bendis. When this happens to team books, when we get like huge changes, they're like, go check out this book to get the full story. I feel like this is just a shameless move on Marvel's part just to promote other titles. And last week I praised there was an issue of Doctor Strange that I really loved because it still tied into Infinity War, but it didn't ruin the actual issue involving Doctor Strange. This is the opposite. I did not like this because of the way it just pretty much casually just goes, hey, they got new looks, who cares? Also, with Nova out of commission, I'm not really finding a reason to keep reading Champions because Nova, Sam Alexander was a very interesting character. I really liked his solo title, and when it went away and I found out he was on Avengers and Champions, I thought, okay, this could be good, but now that he doesn't have his powers, it just feels like I don't really need to be reading Champions anymore. So I think that's why after this issue I am dropping Champions. Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, number 48. The Green Lantern Corps continue fighting the Dark Stars while Hal Jordan and Hector Hammond go to the Dark Stars base to free the controllers. This issue was basically a massive fight scene, and I do have to give credit to the art team of Rafa Sandoval and Tomeu Morey. I'm sorry if I'm butchering names. Another great thing about this issue was the way it was told from Tomar 2's perspective, because Tomar 2 is pretty much the main antagonist that we've been following that's closely related to the Dark Stars. So it was good to see that. So it was very interesting to get this story told from like his perspective. However, though, going into Robert Venditti's final Green Lantern story, it just feels mostly average. And at this point, I'm just going to keep getting. There's only 2 issues left, and I'm just going to get those just to finish the series. Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows, number 21. Annie Mae gets her parents involved with her own version of the Clone Saga. Also, Spider-Man contacts Normie Osborn to see if anyone used Norman Osborn's old equipment from the original Clone Saga. When Normie finds his grandfather's old lab in the Oscorp building, he gets attacked by the real mastermind, Mr. Sinister. This issue had some really great references to the original Clone Saga, such as Mary Jane and Annie visiting Ben Reilly's grave, and also how MJ kind of revealed to Annie that during this time she did suffer a miscarriage. And I thought that was a very powerful scene when Annie learns about all of this. I thought that was handled very well. However, most of the artwork in this issue just feels a little uneven at times. Also, I don't understand why we have a Clone Saga villain and it's going to be Mr. Sinister. I just feel like, again, this is just a little caveat of mine when you have major villains from other titles like interfering in the lives of other heroes. Overall, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep Renew Your Vows after this arc, so I'll wait till the final arc and then finally decide whether or not I'm going to keep it or drop this title. Titans, number 23. The Titans head into their first mission. Unfortunately, it ends on a horrible note when Miss Martian has to kill someone. This issue shows a lot of tension between Nightwing and Miss Martian, mainly because Nightwing thought this would be his team and that the Justice League would not have any problems with it, but they made him add Miss Martian to be like the liaison between the Titans and the Justice League. So I think this is going to be a recurring theme and something we're going to see in the next upcoming issues. Also, we get an ending teaser of Miss Martian and Martian Manhunter discussing some secrets that she needs to keep from the other Titans. And honestly, I think the most obvious guest here is Miss Martian is a white Martian, which, come on, anyone that has seen Young Justice knows that secret. It's a big part of her character, so I don't know how much mystery we're going to have with that. Still, I think this title has some potential in it. It does remind me a lot of the Young Justice TV series. I think fans of the Young Justice TV series, if they're anxiously waiting for the new season for the new season. In the meantime, you can read Titans in order to fill that void. Detective Comics number 984. Cassandra Cain, aka Orphan, fights Karma, but is saved by Batman and Black Lightning. Batman tells Jefferson Pierce more about the team he wants to train. This issue does a good job revealing more about its antagonist Karma, but not much else. All we know is that his mask somehow allows him to read people's thoughts, and he got it from on the black market of Markovia, which is a reference to another character from Batman and Black Lightning's team, The Outsiders, Geoforce. Also, there's a great scene when Jefferson is discussing training the Batman's younger allies with Bruce Wayne, and the dialogue that Brian Hill wrote was fantastic. I thought it was definitely pure Black Lightning, and I liked how Hill embraced Jefferson's role as an educator rather than a superhero. And honestly, if Brian Hill wants to write a Black Lightning title, I would be totally on board for that. Next up, Farmhand number 1. Zeke Jenkins returns to his father's farm. However, at this farm, they don't raise produce or livestock. They grow human appendages and organs. This book starts off strong with a great setup, laying out the basic ideas and premise of the book without giving too much away, which creates a nice mystery for upcoming issues. Also, I love the design of the Jenkins family farm because it feels like it's straight out of... It feels like a darker version of Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory if Willy Wonka was into organ harvesting instead of candy making. This book is fantastic. As someone who mostly reads superhero comics, I found this very intriguing and engaging, and I want to see more of it. So if you get the chance, get Farmhand number 1. Archie number 32. Riverdale High is being held hostage by the Blossom twins' biological father, Eddie Shears. Fortunately, Betty, Veronica, and Jughead figure out a way to stop Shears with Archie's classic dumb luck. The rebooted Archie is just amazing. It's a really fun story. I really like this issue because of the way that how Betty, Veronica, and Jughead have kind of figured out that if Archie was near Eddie and tried to do something, then Archie's dumb luck, which was a recurring theme in this reboot, is that whenever Archie does something, usually he causes an accident which doesn't harm him, but always harms someone else. So they figured, hey, let's use that as an advantage to take out the gunman. And also, I really liked how it's definitely much more lighter, and I think that if you liked Riverdale, you should definitely give the rebooted Archie a try because of its modern setting and because of its differences in tone. Flash, number 50. Hunter Zolomon reveals his true target is Hyper Time. Wally ends up using the temporal energy attached to him to knock Zoom out of Hyper Time. However, in the present, Commander Cold, who is one of the renegades from the 25th century, came back with the second Wally and Iris West and reveals that because of older Wally's actions releasing the temporal energy, the Speed Force no longer allows time travel. This issue did a good job analyzing the conflicts that come with having both Barry and Wally as the Flash at the same time. Also created an interesting resolution that could sort of set Wally up for his own title. And there is a great callback to when Hunter Zolomon gets close to Hyper Time and references one more force being taken, Barry tells Wally that he's probably talking about the Still Force, which is a reference to one of the elements used in Scott Snyder's current Justice League series. But the best thing about this issue was the return of another iconic speedster at the end of this story, which I'm not going to give away. And if you know who I'm talking about, do not spoil it in the comments. But when I saw who it was, I was jumping for joy. Overall, Flash War was an awesome story, and I think it's something that every Flash fan, whether you're a Barry fan or a Wally fan, should read. Superman number 1. Following the Man of Steel miniseries, Superman makes plans to find Lois and John, and he also rebuilds the Fortress of Solitude in the Bermuda Triangle. However, these plans are changed when Earth is suddenly transported into the Phantom Zone. This is a very interesting direction for Superman. I really like the redesign of the Fortress of Solitude, even though Superman building the fortress in the middle of the ocean does feel reminiscent of Superman Returns. Also, I really liked Brian Michael Bendis' dialogue. He writes excellent dialogue, and the way he writes Superman, it just feels very relatable and very direct. Like, you can understand what Superman is feeling, which is nice. Also, there's a great scene where he's talking to Martian Manhunter, and during their conversation, Superman has to go, wait, hold on, and we see him stopping another disaster, continue his conversation, pause, then goes and stops another disaster, which is a funny sequence. However, though, I didn't really like the way Bendis wrote Martian Manhunter in this issue, because he kind of comes off as, I mean, it started off good where Martian Manhunter sort of says that at first when people used to say that they were the last two of their species, he couldn't feel relatability because Clark's plant died of natural causes. His died because of the war with the green and white Martians. But now that he knows that someone destroyed Krypton, he feels like, you know, they are more relatable to each other, which was a nice setup. But then as we got on, Martian Manhunter kind of encouraged, feels like Superman should take charge more in being the bridge between Earth and the rest of the galaxy, which just felt coming off as very power grabby. Overall though, I like this first issue a lot. I am curious about what Brian Michael Bendis has planned for the Man of Steel, and I'm definitely willing to give this a shot. Okay, my last comic, my pick of the week is Amazing Spider-Man #1. Peter Parker is adjusting to his new living situation. He has two roommates, Randy Robertson, son of Joe Robertson, and Fred Myers, aka Boomerang. However, the Parker luck comes back with a vengeance when Peter's graduate degree gets revoked because technically Peter's paper was originally written by Otto Octavius. Even though this issue was dealt before in the pages of Superior Spider-Man, it's come back to haunt Peter again. Except this time it's even worse because now Peter loses all credibility and gets fired from his science editor job at the Daily Bugle. And to make matters worse, Mayor Wilson Fisk is trying to promote Spider-Man as a hero of New York, which does not help his relations with the other superheroes. Fortunately though, there are some bright spots in this issue because after a caper where Mysterio stages an alien invasion, Spider-Man goes and talks to someone who's always been there for him, and it leads to a moment that Spider-Man fans have been begging for years. And also, though, fortunately things do look up for Peter in terms of his degree because at the end of the issue, the university decides to give him another chance and retake the course because the guy teaching it spoke very highly about giving Peter another chance, and that person is Dr. Curtis Connors, aka the Lizard. And if you read Clone Conspiracy, you know that Connors is looking a little green in the gills. This issue was awesome. First off, I was a little annoyed when Nick Spencer sort of started to disassemble some of the work that the development Dan Slott made for his run, but then the last scene that I don't really want to get into because of spoilers really saved it for me, and he did still sort of work this way into giving another hurdle for Peter to accomplish, which was passing the course himself. And there's a great scene in here where Peter sort of goes to Aunt May's apartment to kind of like warn her about it, but then she reveals that she found out, and this is like the first time Aunt May's ever been truly disappointed in Peter. And then Peter just thinks about how even though when he got his body back from Doc Ock, he never really bothered to correct the mistake. He just went with it, and that wasn't the right thing to do. And now he realized that, you know, he did pay for this. He is paying for it in a big way. Also, I really loved the ending where we find out that Dr. Connors, aka the Lizard, is now Peter's teacher, because it corrects a misconception that people who've only known about Spider-Man through movies and TV shows always assumed that Dr. Connors has always been Peter's teacher. Not the case. That has never happened in the mainstream Marvel comics. Now, I feel like they've corrected it, and so it's basically canon. So, yay. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for me, but I just feel I didn't realize it was a misconception until like I got to the end. And I'm like, wait, this is the first time Peter's actually been taught by Dr. Connors. So, I've seen it in movie. Yeah, we see it in movies and TV shows all the time, but now it's official. So, yeah. Also, another reason why I love this title is because of Ryan Ottley's artwork. Ryan Ottley did the artwork on one of my favorite comic books of all time, Invincible, and I loved and when I heard he was going to be part of the new Spider-Man team, I was, again, super excited because he's got a really cool way of drawing superhero comics. Like his characters look very dynamic and colorful. He definitely knows how to match facial expressions with their words. Although, there were a couple times when he drew Mary Jane and I kind of thought she looked too similar to Adam Eve, but that's neither here nor there. I still love Ottley's artwork, and I'm glad he's on Spider-Man. So overall, if you are a Spider-Man fan, I highly recommend you check out Amazing Spider-Man #1. That's it for my weekly comic book review. Thank you again for watching. If you want to see any future videos I have coming out, just subscribe, stay notified. Also, follow me on Twitter if you want to know exactly when I post a video, because they always show up in my Twitter feed. Link is in the description below. Again, thanks for watching, and I'm Spider-Man 1991 saying later days.